Hi, I'm Bill Eddy, President of the High Conflict Institute, the developer of the New Ways for Families program. New Ways was designed to reduce conflict at every step of the separation or divorce process, in court cases, collaborative cases, and parenting coordinated cases. This introduction shows you how New Ways is different for parents and for professionals. I'll be joined by Megan Hunter, Vice President of the High Conflict Institute, and brief explanations of a New Ways case example. Let's start with a typical emergency court hearing. Watch how differently it ends.
All right, our next matter up is Sarah and Brad Terrell. May we have appearances, please, for the court's record?
Good morning, Your Honor. William Benjamin appearing for Sarah Terrell, who is present.
Brad Terrell here. I don't have an attorney. I'm not planning on getting one.
All right, thank you both. I see this as an emergency hearing requested by Ms. Terrell today for a restraining order against Mr. Terrell and a no contact order between Mr. Terrell and the minor children. Mr. Benjamin, this is your client's underlying motion. May I hear first from you, please, sir?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is a relatively new case. The parties just separated 3 weeks ago. They have 2 children, Tommy, age 13, and Tara, age 8. 2 weekends ago, Mr. Terrell had visitation with the children at his home, and during the course of that visitation with the children, Mr. Terrell, simply because Tommy had not finished his homework, hit Tommy with a belt. The next weekend, when he requested visitation, Ms. Terrell indicated that she would not permit that given what had transpired. Mr. Terrell came over to the home where the children and Ms. Terrell were anyway, and when Ms. Terrell would not allow him to take the children or open the door, he started screaming and pounded on the screen door so violently that it ripped off the face of the door. The children were extremely scared, as was Mr.
That's
Terrell.
a lie. I would never hurt them. I've never hit her.
All right, Mr. Terrell, you'll have your chance to address the court, but I need to hear a full presentation from Mr. Benjamin first. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. As a result of what happened, Ms. Terrell is requesting a 100-yard restraining order and a no-contact order from Mr. Terrell to either Ms. Terrell or the children. The children are very frightened of their father at this time.
All right, Mr. Terrell, this is a very brief hearing for temporary orders today. There will be a full hearing in a few weeks. Please tell me briefly, what is your response to Ms. Terrell's request?
Okay, I never should have hit Tommy with a belt. I'd only done that once before, a couple of years ago. I have a great relationship with my kids. But she's lying when she said she was in fear for her life. The screen door needed to be repaired. It just came off one of its hinges. I didn't have time to fix it before I left the house. But she's lying when she says I've never hit her before, and she knows it. She's just lying to cut me off from my kids. When the police came, I totally cooperated, and I left. But as I was leaving, she yells out, "Get out of our lives. The kids don't want to see you anymore." Kids were there, and they saw and heard everything.
All right, thank you, Mr. Terrell. I've heard enough now to make my temporary orders for today's hearing. I find that there is good cause today to approve Ms. Terrell's request for the temporary restraining order, and that is based upon the belt incident and the door incident. Mr. Terrell, you are ordered to stay 100 yards away from Ms. Terrell, from the children, and from the residents until our next hearing. However, I find no basis to deny any contact with the children, and I am going to authorize today that you to have supervised visits with the children that will be with a professional supervisor, and it will be 2 days per week. Each visit will be for a 2-hour period. I'm also ordering both of you to participate in New Ways for Families before the next court hearing. This is a new program for counseling before final decisions are made. You each have your own confidential counselor for 6 individual sessions over a 6-week period. Then you will have 3 sessions with your children. I'm going to schedule an interim hearing in 8 weeks so that you will have adequate time to complete your first 6 sessions. This is a longer wait than usual before a full hearing on the restraining order, but I believe that the work both of you do in the short-term counseling will help you both immediately and help you learn skills to help your children be resilient through your separation and your divorce. It will also help me in making my decisions at the next hearing. So I will need, Mr. Terrell, your agreement to extend the hearing date for 8 weeks because you have a right to a speedy motion and hearing on these temporary orders. I understand that you won't see much of the children during this time, but if the counseling is productive, you should have much more contact after that, and it may not need to be supervised. Certainly, Mr. Benjamin?
Ms. Terrell prefers that she not be required to attend New Ways for Families. She was not a part of the abusive conduct.
Well, I understand, Mr. Benjamin, how your client feels about that. However, New Ways is not a punishment nor a treatment program for abuse. It's a 6-week series of counseling sessions, each parent with their own confidential counselor, to discuss new ways to adjust to changes in your family. New Ways for Families is routinely ordered for both parents so that you are learning the same methods to then teach your children to help them adjust to all of these changes. It will help me to see what each of you have learned at the next hearing. It will also help both of you support each other as parents, as your children do indeed need both of you. Even folks who aren't in court use New Ways for Families for separation and divorce. So I'm ordering you both to select your individual parent counselor from our list that we maintain. That's to be done within the next 7 days of today's date. Then you should each prepare a behavioral declaration during these 7 days to provide to the counselor and to the other parent, who will then provide it to the other counselor. You can get the blank declaration forms and instructions from our clerk's office or on the New Ways website. I'm scheduling your hearing then in 8 weeks. Thank you both. Good luck to you folks. We'll see you back then.
We developed the New Ways for Families program to save courts time, to save parents money, and to protect children as their families reorganize in new ways after a separation or divorce for married or never married parents. It's based on research about new treatments for people with personality disorders, treatments for abusive parents, and ways to include children's input in parent decision-making. It's structured to reduce high conflict behavior at every step of the court process. To be successful, it requires the cooperation of all professionals involved. The focus of New Ways is on parents learning and practicing 3 conflict-reducing skills: flexible thinking, managed emotions, and moderate behaviors, before the big decisions are made. We know that high conflict parents rely on the courts to make one decision after another. In New Ways, the focus shifts to both parents and their future behavior. This helps keep the children out of the conflict.
Let me explain how New Ways works. There are 4 steps. Step number 1, getting started. Includes the parents signing a stipulation to participate in New Ways and/or making a court order to participate in New Ways, including the appointment of a parent-child counselor. Then each parent needs to select an individual parent counselor to get started right away. Then each parent needs to prepare and serve a behavioral declaration. Step 2, individual parent counseling. This includes 6 sessions with each parent's own confidential counselor. This counseling includes a parent workbook, which the parent will write in during their individual sessions and possibly before and after their sessions. Step 3, parent-child counseling, includes 3 sessions with each parent and the children, alternating weeks with the other parent over 6 weeks. The parents share the same non-confidential counselor unless a parent refuses to sign releases. They each have their own parent-child workbook for these sessions. This counselor does not write a report or make recommendations, but can report observations to the court if they don't reach agreements out of court. Step 4, family or court decision-making. Includes settlement negotiations for a new parenting plan with the assistance of professionals if possible, such as attorneys or mediator. If they are unable to settle the case, then the court will make decisions for them after quizzing them on what they have learned in their counseling. Now let's look at what happens in step 1, getting started. You saw the judge issue the order for New Ways, including appointing the parent-child counselor. Now each parent needs to pick their own counselor and prepare a behavioral declaration to give to their counselors. Let's watch Sarah and her attorney.
From this list, you're going to get to choose your own individual parent counselor. You'll schedule your own appointments, and you'll make your own fee arrangements with that counselor. You need to make contact this week, however, so we need to have an appointment hopefully next week or as soon thereafter as possible. I would suggest these 3 counselors, simply because I've had a good experience with them in the past in similar type cases. But the decision's up to you. What you might want to do is just call all 3 of them and then decide which one you like the best.
I think I'd prefer to see one of the women counselors on this list. I just don't trust that any man is going to understand what I'm going through.
That's fine. As long as they're from the list, it's entirely up to you who you select. Okay? All right, next we have these, what's called a behavioral declaration. And what we're doing here in this is we're telling the counselors in neutral terms what Brad's parenting problems are, rather than, whether he's a good parent or a bad parent. So the focus is on behavior. That way the counselor can help each of you deal with those behaviors and learn new ways of dealing with those behaviors, as well as with your children. Now, while you might want to say in this declaration that Brad's a raging maniac, instead what you want to do is focus on his behavior. In other words, what's in neutral terms is the behavior. In essence, is it recurring? Does it happen all the time? And what sort of orders we need from the judge to address those behaviors. Now, Brad also is going to have an opportunity to prepare a similar declaration about your behaviors. And then each of you will be given an opportunity to prepare what's called a reply behavioral declaration, where you'll have an opportunity to tell the counselor whether or not you agree that those are or are not your behaviors. So tell me now, in neutral descriptive terms, your 3 biggest concerns about Brad's parenting behavior.
Well, he's abusive and unreasonable with the children. He makes them do things they don't want to do.
Okay, well that's good. So give me an exact type of behavior you're talking about.
Well, for example, he makes Tommy do woodworking projects with him, and Tommy hates doing those projects because of his dad's temper.
Okay, so you could say in this case in your behavioral declaration, Mr. Terrell says to Tommy that he has to spend time on woodworking project with his father, and when Tommy says no, his father still requires him to do this.
Tommy never says no. I think it's because he's afraid to. I see it in his face, but his father doesn't. Well, a few months ago, he made Tommy do a birdhouse with him, and Tommy just went along with it because Brad pressured him to do it.
Okay. What about this hitting with a belt? Has that ever happened before?
Oh, yes. A couple of years ago, it was over homework. Tommy had this huge project due. It was 25% of his grade. I was out of town, and, well, I'm the one with a master's degree. Brad is just a janitor. I usually help them.
Okay, well that's good. So now tell me in neutral descriptive terms what happened a couple of years ago and then how it affected the children.
As a family law professional, you can see the importance of step 1. The order is necessary to clearly direct the parents in their tasks. If high conflict parents do not have clear directions, they may get overwhelmed or avoid doing tasks. Yet our experience is the parents are very motivated in this step, so that they select their counselor, schedule their appointments, and pay for them on time. We recommend a sliding fee scale option so that the counseling is affordable. Yet the responsibility needs to be on the parent for making the arrangements. The behavioral declarations are essential for the counselors so that they know what type of case they're dealing with in advance. Since the individual counselors are confidential, it is these behavioral declarations that provide the counselors with the other parents' concerns. Since high conflict parents often minimize or omit their own problems, this may be the only source of information about some of those problems.
The reply declarations are essential to know what each parent admits to or disagrees with. These declarations, or affidavits, are not designed to be filed with the court, but just given to the counselors so that the clients may be more willing to make admissions to work on problems without exposing themselves unnecessarily at court.
The behavioral declarations, replies, and court orders are the only documents the counselors will see, so they must receive them before the counseling begins. This provides structure and motivation. It also helps them practice limiting what they write, rather than going on and on about the other's faults, as we see so often in family court cases.
Each parent provides their own individual counselor and the other parent with a copy to give to the other parent's individual counselor. They both give these declarations and orders to the parent-child counselor. Now let's go to step 2, individual parent counseling. There are 6 confidential sessions. Let's start by looking in on Brad and the counselor he selected.
Hi, Brad. I'm glad you're back. How you doing this week?
Oh, terrible. Sarah keeps emailing me, telling me to leave her and the kids alone. She just really hates doing these counseling sessions, and she blames me for it. She just said so in an email right before I came over here. God, it just really makes me angry.
You've had a hard week.
Yeah.
You know, what you've just talked about fits in with our topic for this week, which is something we call flexible thinking. Because flexible thinking is something that helps people decrease conflict in their relationships. The writing exercise that we have planned for this week is something that might actually help you with what you're going through right now. Let me ask you, did you notice any all or nothing thinking in what happened in the past week?
Oh, yeah, you bet. That's all Sarah does. She wants me totally out of her life completely, and she wants me to have nothing to do with the kids. You know, when I left, I thought that we could at least be civil with each other, but no, not Sarah. With her, it's all or nothing. You know, I am more flexible in my thinking than she is. God, but she really makes me angry. When I left, I thought we were going to be able to, you know, at least act civilly with each other, but no, not Sarah. With her, it's all or nothing, especially when she tries to interfere with me and the kids.
So you're seeing some all or nothing thinking in Sarah. Do you see it in yourself?
Well, I think I'm more flexible than her.
Okay. But you expect all or nothing thinking out of her.
Yeah.
So this is subtle, but let's look at this just a little bit. If what you expect from Sarah all the time is this all or nothing thinking, that's you having all or nothing thinking about Sarah.
Well, gee, I never saw it that way.
This is all helpful to recognize. In fact, this is something you can write into your parent workbook. On the first page for today's session, can you please write something that relates to something in your life that's not all or nothing thinking? What could you put that you just said about being flexible?
I guess I could write that I'm willing to be friends with Sarah if she'll just agree to let me see the kids regularly.
Okay. Let's go ahead and have you write that in.
Okay.
You said you're willing to be friends with her if she'll let you see the kids regularly.
If she'll let me see the kids regularly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you might just leave the ending off, the part about if she'll work with you. You might have to show her how you're open to working with her first. It could actually be a good role model for her.
Oh, you got that right. You know, I actually manage my emotions better than she does. I mean, she's always crying or upset about something.
Let's look at what you could write on the next page. Give an example about how you might practice this in the coming week in your life and how you would respond, for example, to her emails.
Okay.
My husband is such a jerk. If he really wants to go through this divorce, then I want nothing to do with him. The kids are better off without him. All he does is just bully them around. I never expected this to happen. I thought we were a happy family. I was so blindsided when he wanted a divorce. I don't know what to do. I feel so overwhelmed.
Oh, Sarah, I know this can be a hard time. It's emotionally exhausting. In fact, emotions are what we're going to focus on today. Did you get a chance to look at the workbook about today's session?
No, I haven't even given a thought to the workbook. I can hardly think of the hour ahead, much bless the workbook.
That's really okay. Remember, you don't have to do anything outside of these counseling sessions unless you want to. We can do all of the workbook exercises during our sessions. There's plenty of time. These exercises are designed to be helpful, especially during these stressful times. There are a lot of ideas here for how to deal with calming your upset emotions. Do you want to begin with taking a break, talking to someone neutral, or telling yourself encouraging statements?
Encouraging? My life is falling apart. How can I be encouraging to myself?
Well, actually you can. Or you can talk to someone neutral. What's helped you in the past when you've been upset?
Well, my mom died when I was 14. My dad took me by the shoulders and looked me square in the eyes and said, "We will survive." Believe me, that's a thought I have hung on to through the years. I've been through an awful lot. I am a survivor. Let me tell you about some of the abuse that I've experienced.
Not now, but later if you want to. Since we only have these 6 sessions and the focus is on the skills in the parent handbook, if we want to talk about past abuse experiences, we should do it after our 6 sessions are over and you've completed your workbook. There's nothing stopping us from continuing to work together in the future if you want to. Right now, though, let's look at what you can write in your workbook, such as, "You're a survivor," and other phrases you can tell yourself when you're upset. You can refer to these notes later, which can help you during these stressful moments. It sounds to me that you're good at telling yourself encouraging statements and getting through difficult times.
I guess you're right. I have gotten through some pretty difficult times.
Good. Then let's make sure to write that down.
So you've just seen a small sample of what the individual parent counseling is like. Remember, it's confidential, so that the counselor does not get involved in any of the decision making. The counselor does not talk to the judge, any attorneys, nor even the other parent's counselor. The focus is exclusively on learning and strengthening the 3 skills: flexible thinking, managed emotions, and moderate behaviors. While 6 sessions won't totally change a parent who has been abusive or alienating, etc., many parents can learn to check themselves to think about, am I using flexible thinking right now? Am I managing my emotions enough to feel better and to shield my kids from my upset emotions? How can I respond to this problem with moderate behaviors?
Rather than getting into complaints about the other parent, the counselor emphasizes how learning or strengthening these skills can help each parent deal with the other parent and get through this difficult time. These skills will be helpful in all parts of each parent's life, including with their children, with their friendships, and at work. The same 3 skills are actually basic leadership skills, coping skills, and decision-making skills for any close relationship in modern times. These are also skills which will reduce abusive behavior and alienating behavior. So if you are a reasonable parent and the other parent has been abusive or alienating or making false statements about you, learning these skills will help you avoid overreacting and looking like you are a high conflict parent. If you are unable to reach agreements together out of court after the counseling steps are over, then you will need to be able to demonstrate your skills to the judge at court. It will help you to show the judge that you have flexible thinking, managed emotions, and moderate behaviors in your attitude toward the other parent and toward your children. Now, even if the other parent has been abusive or very unreasonable, you will help yourself to be supportive of his or her efforts to change, rather than appearing to simply want to eliminate him or her from the children's lives, which would be considered all or nothing thinking. Asking for supervised visitation may be appropriate in some cases, such as Judge Clements ordered for Brad after Sarah requested a no contact order. But a desire to eliminate the other parent will backfire in court, except in very extreme cases.
Speaking of back in court, Sarah and Brad are now ready for their interim hearing to see if there's any reason to change the temporary orders before they start Step 3, Parent-Child Counseling. Let's take a look.
All right, welcome back, Mr. Terrell. Ms. Terrell, Mr. Benjamin, what's the status of the case today, sir?
Thank you, Your Honor. Both parents have attended New Ways for Families for 6 sessions each. They have no agreements at this time. However, there's been a new development since the last hearing. The children no longer want to visit Mr. Terrell. My client is therefore requesting that until Mr. Terrell secures some professional treatment for his abusive behavior, that the visitation cease.
All right, thank you, Mr. Benjamin. Mr. Terrell, I'm going to start with you, and I'd like you to tell me what you've learned from your New Ways counseling. Then I'm going to ask you for a response to what Mr. Benjamin has just said. But let's start first with what you've learned, sir.
I've learned that I can't use a belt in disciplining my son over his homework just because that's how my father did with me. I realized that I let myself become too rigid about the homework at the moment, that I need to plan ahead better. I need to be more flexible in my thinking. I've learned that I can help my kids a lot, even if I don't have a master's degree like their mother does. If I start to become stressed, I can calm my emotions down by remembering reminding myself that I really actually am a pretty good parent in lots of ways. At the supervised visits, I've been trying to focus on the kids and what they're into at this age. And I know I was too uptight and competing with their mother, and because I missed how much they really enjoyed being with me.
Well, I'm pleased that you've learned these things about yourself and your children. This, I genuinely believe, will help you, sir, over the years. I'm glad to hear that you realize now that using a belt was not moderate behavior. Let me ask you now, what would you do in the future if Ms. Terrell refused to allow you to see the children? Would yelling and pushing on the door be moderate behavior in your eyes now? What could you do instead?
No. I know now that yelling and pounding on the door are not moderate behaviors. I'm checking myself now, and before I'm doing anything in dealing with Ms. Terrell, now I would call up a lawyer that I've been talking with and ask her what to do. I wouldn't even go over to her house, our house. Now I would calm myself down and I would call the lawyer.
Good. I'm very glad to hear that you're checking yourself now. How do you respond now to Ms. Terrell's statements that children don't want to see you anymore?
That's totally false. It's been really hard meeting with the children over at the supervisor's place. They really are enjoying spending time with me, and they want to spend more, but not with somebody looking over our shoulders. I want to show you, sir, that normal time with my children is going to work out just fine. I mean, nobody ever accused me of abuse before. Not even 2 years ago. Sarah didn't call it abuse with the belt. She didn't call CPS, and she didn't ask for a restraining order. She just told me not to do it again. There's no reason why I shouldn't have half the parenting time. I mean, the problem is that she's telling the children they don't want to see me anymore. She says that she and her mother are all they need.
Well, the report from the visitation supervisor says that the children responded well to you. Frankly, I'm surprised to hear that they told their mother that they didn't want to see you, since the supervisor thought the visits went so well. Now, Ms. Terrell, tell me what you've learned in your New Ways individual parenting counseling, and tell me why you think the children don't want to spend time with their father.
I've learned that I should not express my feelings of sadness or anger about Mr. Terrell around the children as it upsets them. I've learned that my feelings can be contagious and that the children might become sad if I'm sad or angry. I've tried going into my room and screaming into the pillow with the door locked so that they won't hear me.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I'm glad you're learning to check yourself and to protect your children from your upset feelings. This is very important, I believe, for their future, to know that both parents can cope with big challenges without exposing them to the full intensity of their upset emotions. Now, let me ask you, what would you say in the future if Mr. Terrell did something you didn't like? Would you yell in front of the children that they didn't need him in their lives? Would that be moderate behavior in your eyes now? What could you do instead?
No, I realize that yelling is not a moderate behavior. I've tried very hard to protect my children from how upset I get sometimes. A moderate behavior would be going into my room first and calming down.
All right, thank you. I've heard enough now to make my orders for today's hearing. The court orders that both parents are to participate in the New Ways parent-child counseling for the next 6 weeks. The counselor will help each of you teach your children how to stay resilient during your divorce, and hearing from them will help you to develop a more solid parenting plan. I'm also making a finding that today there is a basis for the restraining order to remain in place. Again, that is based upon the belt incident and the door incident. But I'm only going to keep that order in place for the next 6 months to keep the peace while things settle down. Neither of you has reported a long-standing pattern of dangerous behavior. So, Mr. Terrell, you are restrained from being within 100 yards of Ms. Terrell and the residents, except for peaceful exchanges of the children to occur curbside. Remember, sir, that a violation of these orders could land you in jail. Today, I am going to order that Father have normal, unsupervised visitation until the next hearing. Regardless of what the children have said, neither parent has described a behavior to justify no contact with the father or even supervised visitations at this time. Father is to have alternate weekends from Friday after school until Monday morning return to school, and each Wednesday after school until Thursday morning back to school. This way, folks, there will be no contact between the two of you. If you can't reach an agreement, you will need to meet with a mediator before our next hearing to try to help you reach an agreement. I'm going to schedule the next hearing for 10 weeks from now. That allows you enough time for the parent-child counseling and attempts to settle your case. If you haven't reached an agreement about the parenting plan that you can both agree to before then you both need to understand I will make orders that I deem appropriate about your children. I may consider many possible parenting arrangements, as everything I have ordered so far has been temporary without prejudice to either of the parties. I might order equal parenting time, or give one of you primary custody of the children based upon what I have learned. I also may have to order a psychological evaluation, a parenting class, and/or further counseling. Remember, it is always best if the two of you can come to an agreement. Good luck to you both, folks.
The interim hearing you just saw can be helpful in any potentially high conflict case, but it is only really necessary in cases with highly restricted parenting access, such as no contact or supervised visitation. You can see how Judge Clements reinforced the lessons that the parents were learning to check themselves about using the 3 basic skills: flexible thinking, managed emotions, and moderate behaviors. Now we go to step 3, parent-child counseling. The emphasis in step 3 is on the parent teaching the child. The parent-child counselor is not a counselor for the child, but for the parent-child relationship. This counselor does not meet with either the parent or the child to form a special individual relationship. This counselor is not doing deep therapy about the parent-child relationship. Instead, the focus in the first session is on teaching the 3 basic skills, with the parent taking the lead role and the counselor taking a supporting role, giving guidance and information. If the relationship between one of the parents and a child has been strained by a history of abuse or alienation, the focus is still on teaching the 3 skills. This keeps it future-focused, positive, and very basic. In the second session, the parent demonstrates the 3 skills by listening carefully to the child's concerns while managing his or her own emotions and keeping his or her own behavior moderate. The counselor does not push the child to say anything or to take unnecessary risks in confronting a parent about past behaviors. The focus is always on skills, which helps keep a positive future focus that will help both the child and the parent in the future, regardless of what their relationship will be. In the third session, each parent describes new ways they're going to be doing things in their family. This will include how each parent will support the other parent's relationship with the child in new ways. Let's watch how this works for Brad and Sarah with their two children, Tommy, age 13, and Tara, age 9.
Well, we should try to avoid our all or nothing thinking, and we should try to use our flexible, moderate thinking, which means that there are many ways of dealing with problems. There are all kinds of solutions to problems and all kinds of options. And our feelings are just our feelings. That there are many reasons for the way that we feel the way we do. If our feelings become too intense, then we should just walk away or tell ourselves something encouraging, kind of like the Olympic athletes do. Your father and I both still love you very much. I'm just having a very hard time supporting your relationship with him because I see how it upsets you. I will not force either one of you to see him. The judge and the counselor may force you, but I won't.
You know, Mom, let's kind of stay away from the word force. You know, it brings a feeling, sort of a negative feeling to the idea of the kids spending time with their dad, and feelings are contagious. You know, what if you tried using the word, let's say, expect? I mean, as parents, there are a lot of things that we expect our kids to do or not to do because they're in their best interest. So let's take school, for example. Kids, do you like going to school every day?
No way, but Mom tells us to go, so we go. We know that they want the best for us. I guess it's kind of like that when we're about seeing our dad, even if we don't always want to go.
That's right. It's in your best interest. And that's what all parents want. Mom, help me. Who is it that makes the decisions about the kids spending time with their dad or, let's say, going to school? I mean, is this a decision the kids make?
No, decision is up to me and to the judge. I will try very hard to convince him, the judge, that you should not have to go.
You know, let's put this question on the back burner for right now, and we'll come back to it. At this point, I'd like to return to the workbook. Mom, it's very important that the children know that they learn different things from each of you, and that you're both very important in their lives. Mom, can you explain to the kids some of the reasons for this?
I suppose it's because you learn different things from each one of us, although I have a hard time understanding what you're learning from your father right now.
Well, let's see. Maybe the kids can help us here. Kids, tell us some things that you've learned from your dad.
Well, he really helped me. He really taught me how to build stuff and be a guy around the other boys and how to stick up for myself.
And Tara?
He taught me how to make a wooden box for my dolls. He takes me to my friends' houses for overnights. He likes to see me happy. He says we're the best part of his life.
Sarah, make sure that you write down some of these positive comments in your workbook.
Tommy, I'm really sorry about how angry I got over your homework. There's better ways for me to teach you how important your homework is, like, explaining that it's going to help you be successful in life. We're all still learning, like me, I'm having to learn to be more flexible in my thinking, and I want to teach you to be more flexible too. Do you know what flexible means?
Yeah, isn't it like when a piece of wood is real thin, it's real flexible, When a piece of wood is thick, it isn't?
Yeah, that's it exactly. That's it exactly, Tommy. We're all have to learn to bend a little, but without breaking. And the next thing we have to learn is to how to manage our own emotions. To you know, like when you're really upset, you go to your room, or you tell yourself encouraging things so that you calm down. Can I ask them a question now?
You know, I feel like we're doing great. What I'd like to do is let's stick with the workbook for right now. The next task here is for you to write down some of the comments that you've just gotten out of the discussion with the kids. And then maybe what we can do is after the session, you can let me know what the question is. We can decide together whether or not that would be a good question to bring up at the next session where they'll be letting you know some of their concerns.
Okay. What I want to ask Tommy is if he still wants to do woodworking projects with me. His mother says that he gets upset when I ask him if he wants to build something, and it's okay if he doesn't want to. I just want to know.
Mm-hmm. I think that's an excellent question. Yeah. Now, of course, whenever we ask children a question like that, we've got to be prepared for any answer and not get angry at the answer. So my question for you is, are you prepared for any answer?
Yeah, I just want to know. Tommy, thanks for telling me how worried you are about how, things are gonna go now that your mom and I are living apart and getting divorced. But now there was another question I wanted to ask you, okay? Do you still want to do woodworking projects with me? It's okay if you don't. I just want to know.
Of course, Dad. I love doing woodwork projects with you. It's the funnest thing we do. Actually, one of my friends want to build a boat. You want to help us?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to help both of you. He can come over to the house and I will help you both with it. But your mom said that you didn't want to do projects with me anymore. Like when I asked you if you wanted to do a birdhouse a few weeks ago.
Yeah, well, I was just mad because you made Mom cry.
Oh, that's ridiculous. She makes herself cry. She does it a lot.
Let's pause here just for a second. I want to look at this question. I want us all to look at this question just a little more closely. No one can make us feel anything, although people can influence the way we feel by the things they say or the things they do. Now, Dad, Tommy feels comfortable letting you know what he thinks and what he feels. That's excellent. Clearly you guys have a good relationship and you just had a very good discussion. What I would like from you, Brad, is can you let Tommy know that you appreciate how open he's being with you?
Oh, I am, Tommy. It's thanks for telling me about this. Okay, I really appreciate you telling me anything, even if you think I won't like it. And I'm just really, really glad that you want to do woodworking projects with me because I love doing them with you and with Tara. Right, Tara?
Yeah, Daddy. And my toy box is too full. I need another one.
Oh, well, maybe we can work on that when I get my workbench from the house, okay? And it should be easy now that I've got regular weekends with you both. And, hopefully soon I'll be able to spend half the time with you. We're going back to court real soon.
Brad, reminder, try and steer away from talking about court with the kids. They don't need to know when you or their mother are going to be in court. It's really grown-up stuff.
Yeah, we don't like you going to court, Dad. Why don't you stop fighting with Mom?
Did your mom tell you to say that? I can't believe this double standard. I'm supposed to keep quiet about it while she discusses everything with the children?
Now hold on. I hear you, but what I need you to know, Brad, is I'm also working with their mother to keep the court process away from them. And, what I also know is this is tough on both of you, but it always is. This is probably one of the most difficult things that parents adjust to after divorce.
But I have rights as a father. I should just have the kids half the time. That should be the end of it. She's the one who keeps dragging us back into court, trying to keep me out of my kids' lives.
Mom didn't tell us to say that. We know she doesn't want us to see you, but we told her that we want to see you. Didn't we, Tara?
Yeah, we want to see you.
Yeah, so just stop talking about your rights and we're fine with what we have. Let's keep seeing each other like this.
Yeah, Daddy.
You know, let me jump in here at this point and bring this part of the conversation to a close. You know, kids, your father has heard your concerns, and parenting schedule is something that grown-ups are going to decide about. What I would like, Brad, is for you to let the kids know that you appreciate how open they've been with you.
Step 4 is decision making. Ideally, the parents will now be able to make their own big decisions out of court, using their skills of flexible thinking, managed emotions, and moderate behaviors. In many court systems, there are mediators who are trained to help parents develop long-term parenting plans, including weekly schedules, holidays, vacations, methods of communicating, and ways of making changes when necessary. Of course, some parents can't reach agreement with their mediator, so they still go to court. So New Ways Step 4 is called Family or Court Decision Making.
Now let's see how Sarah gets ready for this mediation with her attorney.
Good to see you, Sarah. Now that you've finished Step 3 of New Ways, we're going to discuss Step 4, which is the decision-making process, where you're going to use all of these skills that we've been practicing. And you'll have a mediation with Brad and a mediator and try and reach agreement on all the issues. Now, along those lines, dealing with the parenting schedule, I received a call from Brad yesterday. He said he's willing to drop his request for a 50-50 parenting plan if you'll agree to give him one more additional night per week. He says he wants to also work on a project with Tommy and one of his friends, and that Tommy told him that he still enjoys their woodworking projects.
That's absurd. I want him to have nothing to do with the children. I think he's a monster even if the judge doesn't see it that way. Well, look how he upsets the children.
And I understand that. But understand this too. Brad has authorized me now to speak with the parent-child court counselor. So let's see what the counselor thinks first before we prepare a response to Brad's proposal.
Oh, don't bother. I already know what he thinks. He's trying to help me become more flexible and moderate in my thinking by sharing parenting with Brad. He doesn't think either one of us is a bad parent. Look, can't you just get depositions or declarations from all the people who think that I'm the better parent and that he's the abusive, irresponsible one?
Yeah, we can do that. But all the declarations and depositions about the past won't help. Because if the parent-child counselor believes Brad is doing well in the present, it's not going to make much of a difference. Remember, the judge wants you both to learn new ways of being good parents so that what each of you learn now, to the judge at least, is more important than proving that Brad was a jerk in the past. So I think you sort of have to decide if you want to reach an agreement, like adding another night to Brad's parent schedule, or risk going in front of the judge and maybe he decides to give you a 50-50. Remember, Judge Clements told us that that was a real possibility.
Well, how about if I propose an extra evening every other week, but not an overnight?
That's a good idea. I mean, it really is. You could propose that to Brad in your mediation session. And that, again, sounds like flexible thinking to me. So what do you think?
I suppose so. Hi, Bill.
Hi, Sarah. So how did it go with the mediator?
We did reach an agreement. Brad proposed an extra overnight every week, and I proposed an extra evening every other week. Well, we settled on an extra evening every week, but for only 2 hours.
Okay, so let's see. That works out to about 40% of the parenting time with Brad and 60% with you. That sounds like a realistic agreement to me. What do you think?
Well, it's not what I wanted, but I suppose it's better than going to court.
Well, you've got that right. I've been in court for a lot of similar cases, and it's always better if you can reach an agreement. Your children will have a much better future. Speaking of the future, did the mediator talk to you about using a parenting coordinator in the future if you have any disputes?
Oh, yes, she did. We both agreed to see the facilitating coordinator in the future instead of going back into court, and if we ever have any disagreements. I'm sure we're going to have disagreements.
Excellent. That's really good planning. It will save you a lot of money staying out of court.
As Bill Benjamin said, it's always better for the children when parents can make their own decisions. This is a good example of how using flexible thinking helped Brad and Sarah reach an agreement. They each started out wanting quite different things. Brad wanted a strict 50-50 schedule imposed, and Sarah wanted him to have no contact. They could have argued over this for years in family court. In fact, many of the cases I have worked with in family court have included such arguments for months or years. Instead, using the New Ways for Family structure, they are able to get on a positive track within 4 months or so of the start of their case. And agreeing to use a parenting coordinator for the future was a really good plan. This is a method that is being tried all over the country and the world to help parents keep potentially high conflict cases out of court. If they can't resolve their disputes, they can still go to court, but most of the time, the parenting coordinator is able to resolve future issues for them out of court.
But what if they couldn't reach an agreement in mediation? What if one or both of them wanted to go to court and have a full hearing on their parenting issues? Here's how New Ways for Families works if the parents go back to court. Let's take a look at how it may have gone.
Next case, Sarah and Brad Terrell. Counsel, please state your appearances for the court's record.
Your Honor, William Benjamin for Sarah Terrell, who is present.
Good morning, Your Honor. Sean Skillen on behalf of Brad Terrell, who is present.
The parties' counsel reached any agreements that the court should be aware of?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Well, that's disappointing, but let me take a few moments now to explain how this hearing, folks, is going to go. First, I'm going to ask some questions of your clients, counsel. I'm going to ask each of you, Mr. and Ms. Terrell, to tell me what you've learned from your counseling. Then I'm going to give you a future parenting scenario and ask how you would deal with it using your skills. Then I'm going to give you my tentative decision in your matter. You will have an opportunity to discuss the tentative decision out in the hallway with your attorneys and each other, and hopefully you'll be able to resolve the situation yourselves. If you have not reached an agreement, well, that will be disappointing. But I will then hear your testimony, I'll receive the evidence, I'll probably hear testimony from the parent-child counselor who will not make a recommendation, but who will tell me what he observed about each of your parenting skills. Then I will make some long-term orders for you. All right, any questions from anyone? Remember, when you ask me, a stranger in this matter, to make decisions for you about your children, one or both of you is going to be disappointed. So keep in mind how important it is to try to reach an agreement today, if that at all is possible.
Please describe how the children reacted when their father knocked so hard on the door that the screen door fell off.
They were terrified that he would come in and kill us all. We were all afraid. They're terrified of him still. They do not want to see him.
Please describe how the children react to you when they have visitation with you on the weekends.
They have a wonderful time. They love doing projects with me. We laugh and play, and we get along just really great.
How do you deal with it when you feel angry with them?
Well, first, I tell them that I'm going to take a break for a few minutes. Then I calm myself down by reminding myself that they're good kids and I'm a good parent. Next, I would think of a moderate behavior for the situation, such as, dinner until they clean up or finish their homework, whatever. And I try to plan ahead. That way, problems don't really come up very often anyway.
Dr. Desjardins, I really appreciate, sir, your observations of the parents and how well they appear to be doing with the counseling with both of their children. Now, I have one more question for you. Do the children seem to be afraid of spending time with their father?
No, in fact, they seem quite comfortable with him. After a few moments, I've observed them relaxing and opening up with him. I've also observed them letting him know what they like and what they don't like about the way he spends time with them. They've also said they don't want him fighting about the parenting schedule with their mother.
And how did he respond to those concerns of the children?
He struggled for a moment, looked like he was going to get angry, and then he thanked the kids for bringing that to his attention, and he said he would think about it.
And how did the mother respond to the children when they had negative things to say to her?
She also started to get angry, and she caught herself and let the children know that her feelings were her responsibility and not theirs.
So would you say that both parents are trying to, in effect, check themselves and to respond moderately with the children, even when they're upset?
Yes.
And do you have any concerns whatsoever about the children spending significant time with either parent at this point?
No.
All right, thank you, Dr. Desjardins, for your observations. I, of course, will consider them, sir, in making my findings and orders in this matter.
So that's how New Ways for Families is structured. The 4 steps focus the parents on their 3 skills and checking themselves to use them regularly. Every professional played an important role in this process, as you could see. In some cases, the parents were able to make their own realistic decisions. In other cases, the judge must make the decision for them. New Ways can be used in any separation or divorce. It was designed for high conflict cases, including domestic violence, child abuse, and alienation, even cases much more severe than Brad and Sarah. As Judge Clements said, the court can still order evaluations, treatment programs, more counseling, and/or parenting classes. New Ways has been adapted for collaborative divorce cases. There's a different workbook designed for 3 individual coaching sessions instead of counseling sessions, and 3 sessions with the child specialist and the parents and children. The parents practice writing moderate emails, making flexible proposals, and working together. In collaborative, the team is not confidential, so it is easier to schedule appointments, and the whole team can support the parents in using their skills in the collaborative decision-making process. We've also been using New Ways for Families in some parenting coordination cases after long-term court orders have been made. The parenting coordinator reinforces the 3 skills, similar to what Judge Clements did, in quizzing the parents on what they've learned and in having the parents use their skills whenever new issues arise that they bring to the parenting coordinator. There's an old saying, give a person a fish and you feed them for a day. Teach them how to fish and you feed them for a lifetime. It's the same with high conflict families. Give them a good decision, even a brilliant decision, and they may just keep coming back for more decisions. But if you teach them to use these 3 skills, flexible thinking, managed emotions, and moderate behaviors, even a little bit, you might help the parents and their children for a lifetime. For more information about New Ways for Families, for thorough training, or setting up a program, please contact us. You need thorough training because New Ways is so different and often the opposite of what you feel like doing with high conflict parents. Everyone needs to work together. Best wishes.